Hey everyone, and welcome to the first episode of Starward. In this new weekly series, we will cover all that's been going on in the spaceflight industry, including launch provider updates, mission updates and announcements, as well as a host of space-related science and discoveries. These videos are in addition to the Starbase weekly updates, which will still be released each week so you can stay up to date on all things Starship. So, without further ado, I want to thank you for joining us for the premiere of this exciting new series. My name is Jeb, and I'll be your host for this episode of Starward. Kicking off the week on November 26th, SpaceX launched its 26th commercial resupply mission to the International Space Station on a brand new booster, B-1076. Falcon 9 successfully lifted off at 2:20 p.m. local time from LC-39A at Kennedy Space Center, carrying the new Cargo Dragon capsule C-211, which had 7,700 pounds of supplies, research, and hardware on board, including the next pair of International Space Station rollout solar arrays, as well as 8 CubeSats. After booster separation and second stage ignition, the first stage successfully touched down on drone ship Just Read the Instructions. It wasn't a perfect bullseye landing, but still a spectacular performance for this brand new booster nonetheless, making it the 152nd successful Falcon 9 landing overall. Meanwhile, the second stage reached its final orbit, and Dragon separated from the second stage to continue its journey to the International Space Station. About 17 hours later, on November 27th at 7:39 a.m. EST, Dragon autonomously docked to the International Space Station's Zenith or space-facing docking port located on the Harmony module. Also on November 26th, China's YF-100N reusable rocket engine was test-fired for the first time. It has a thrust of 130 tons, and during the test fire it completed a 50-second burn, then relit and fired for another 50 seconds. The engine is planned to replace the expendable YF-100Ks used on the Long March 5G, and most likely the same engine will replace the YF-100 engines on the Long March 8 as well, as it shifts towards reusability. China crammed several launches into their schedule this week, beginning the fun on November 27th with the launch of 3 Yaogan 36 military reconnaissance satellites aboard a Long March 2D, which lifted off at 8:23 p.m. local time from the Xichang Satellite Launch Center. This was the 451st launch of the workhorse Long March rocket family. Moving over to the moon now, this week was a big one for the Artemis 1 mission, and we kicked it off with some incredible pictures from the Orion capsule. While Orion was still in distant retrograde orbit around the moon, its solar panel cameras lost sight of Earth for a brief few minutes as a moon-Earth eclipse set in. These beautiful views were captured from the breathtaking solar panel cameras, which have regularly treated us to incredible shots of the moon and Earth throughout the duration of the mission. After blasting off from Cape Canaveral on November 16th, the Orion capsule recently set the record for the furthest a human-rated spacecraft has ever been from Earth. This record was previously set by Apollo 13 over 52 years ago. Orion has been constantly exceeding expectations, and according to mission manager Mike Serafin, the Artemis 1 mission has been doing so well that they have added 7 additional objectives to the mission. While Orion has been completing all of the different tasks that were set, ground controllers got to try out the colorful party lighting provided by the Callisto tech demo. Lockheed Martin also recently shared an incredible view from inside the capsule of the launch escape system separation. We were also treated to a 360-degree video filmed by NASA engineers while Orion was still in the VAB. At 6:15 p.m. local time on November 28th, a Soyuz 2.1B leapt into the sky from Site 43-3 of the Plesetsk Cosmodrome, giving the final GLONASS-M a piggyback into orbit. GLONASS is an acronym for a roughly translated Global Orbiting Navigation Satellite System, which provides a similar service to the United States Global Positioning System and Europe's Galileo constellation. On November 29th, the Shenzhou 15 mission lifted off from Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center on a Long March 2F rocket, carrying taikonauts Lu Zhang, Qingming Deng, and Zheng Longfei. It was the latter two taikonauts' first ever spaceflight, with Qingming Deng being one of the first ever taikonauts selected for the Shenzhou crew program, being the backup crew for Shenzhou 9, 10, 11, and 12. He has waited 25 years, breaking the record for time between being accepted as an astronaut and the first flight. Less than 7 hours later, the Shenzhou 15 capsule docked with the Tianhe core module's forward port. This marks the first time a Chinese crew has opened a hatch to be greeted by fellow taikonauts, and increases the number of people in the space station to 6, the highest ever for China. On the first minutes of November 30th, more precisely at 10 past midnight local time, Roscosmos launched yet another Soyuz 2.1B from the Plesetsk Cosmodrome, this time carrying what seems to be multiple military satellites, whose identities are unknown except for one payload, the 7th Lotos S1 satellite. Lotos S1 satellites are just one component of Liana, the next-generation electronic intelligence satellite system developed by Russia. Liana will be primarily responsible for Russia's early warning system of nuclear missile launches, as well as carrying out other intelligence tasks while in orbit, such as detecting hostile warships and submarines. On the 1st of December, the Orion capsule successfully completed a lunar departure burn to begin its journey back to Earth. Orion is still scheduled to splash down back on Earth on December 11th, following a 10-day flight back home. The lunar departure burn lasted exactly 1 minute and 45 seconds, complete with camera views of the rocking solar panels and a small, jewel-like Earth shining behind them. We surely look forward to seeing Orion back home very soon. Ever since the private Chinese company Landspace rolled their Zhuque 2 rocket out to the pad in September, the race to see who can launch the first ever methane-fueled rocket to orbit has been uncertain, with the two forerunners now being Landscape's Zhuque 2 and Relativity Space's Terran 1. On October 16th, a document released by Landspace indicated that their first launch was targeted for December 3rd. Satellite images provided by Harry Stranger suggested that the rocket was rolled out to the pad in early December after a launch rehearsal and payload integration in October. Landspace is currently targeting no earlier than December 10th at 8:30 a.m. UTC for the launch of Zhuque 2, which would become the first methane-fueled rocket to attempt an orbital flight. Relativity Space is clearly hot on their heels. According to a tweet by CEO Tim Ellis on December 3rd, Terran 1 was getting ready to roll out to LC-16 at Kennedy Space Center in the upcoming days, after mating of the vehicle was completed on November 18th. At around 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time on December 3rd, NASA astronauts Josh Cassada and Frank Rubio stepped outside the International Space Station to install the set of rollout solar arrays delivered by Dragon on CRS-26 a few days before. Just over 3 hours later, the solar array was successfully installed on its mounting bracket, giving the all-clear for it to be unfurled just before 6:30 p.m. UTC, adding another 20 kilowatts of power to the station. On December 3rd, SpaceX announced Starshield, a secured satellite network designed for government use. Starshield leverages SpaceX Starlink technology to support national security efforts, with an initial focus on 3 main areas: Earth observation, communications, and hosted payloads. It also makes use of Falcon 9's quick reusability and high launch cadence to be able to launch customer payloads on short notice, and with the added bonus of astonishing reliability. This announcement comes just after the FCC approved SpaceX to deploy up to 7,500 Starlink Gen 2 satellites. About 9 hours after undocking from the Tiangong space station, on December 4th, the Shenzhou 14 crew successfully touched down on the Dongfeng landing site. This was after a 6-month-long stay at the space station, where the 3 Shenzhou 14 taikonauts oversaw many historic moments of Chinese crewed spaceflight, such as the arrival of the final 2 modules of the Tiangong space station, Tianwen and Mengtian, and the first ever crew transfer of Chinese taikonauts. In their short 6-month stay, Tiangong went from a single Tianhe module to a fully completed space station, a testament to the fast rate at which the Chinese space program is moving. As more and more countries ramp up their programs and even create new ones, South Korea is the latest to create their own space program. After completing 2 launches of Nuri, also known as KSLV-2, the first rocket to be entirely developed by South Korea, the Korean Aerospace Administration, or KASA, is planned to be established by next year. A new launch vehicle was also announced, capable of sending 10 tons to low Earth orbit. It is planned to be launched in 2030 and will utilize the KRE-075 rocket engine that is also used on the KSLV-2. South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol also claimed that Korea's flag will be planted on Mars by 2045, and the goal of an uncrewed moon landing was announced for 2032. To accomplish this, the South Korean government's space budget is planned to be doubled in the next 5 years, and further increased to 100 trillion won, or $74.7 billion by 2045. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Starward. If you're as excited about this new format as we are, please make sure to leave a like and share this video with your friends, and consider supporting us on YouTube or Patreon. Your support is what allows us to keep making content for all space enthusiasts alike. We also have a Discord server, which is free to join for anyone looking to engage with a passionate community, discuss all things rockets and space, as well as receive a wide range of spaceflight updates the moment that they happen. The link is on screen and in the description below. Thank you for joining us, and I'll see you next week on the next episode of Starward.